The recent trend in diet has been to demonize carbs and to put a keto diet or a low-carb diet on a pedestal. But the reason that vegans have lower risk of obesity, of heart disease, and type 2 diabetes is because they eat a high-carb diet. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, how does that even make sense? The answer is coming up. Hey, good to see you again. If you're new here, my name's Cole Hastings. If you are trying to evolve your body and mind through a plant-based diet, as well as personal development topics, then consider subscribing. So to first understand carbohydrates, we need to understand that there are different types of carbs. The two types of carbs we are going to be focusing on in this video are simple and complex carbohydrates. Simple carbohydrates are smaller molecules of sugar that are digested quickly into our body, and the energy is stored as glycogen in our cells, and if it's not used immediately, it gets converted to fat. And these bad carbs are generally processed carb foods. They've been stripped of their natural nutrients and they have like no fiber in them as well, so they don't keep you satiated as well, which will be important later in the video. But these simple carbohydrates are usually found in sugary drinks, processed food like white bread or white rice, candy and desserts, and refined grains. Now, what's really bad about these simple carbs is the fact that they have a high glycemic index, and the glycemic index is also super important to understand. This is how it's going to affect your blood glucose levels. And now, if you have a high glycemic index in some type of food, it means it's going to affect your blood glucose levels more. So because simple carbs are digested quickly and not used right away, they spike your blood glucose levels. And what this does is actually causes you to gain weight. These empty calories are converted to fat, and it will just make you feel tired, and it won't give you sustained energy like the complex carbs do. Now let's go over complex carbs. These are pretty much the exact opposite of simple carbohydrates. The chemical structure and fibers of these carbs require our bodies to work harder to digest, and energy is released over a longer time. Complex carbs are found in pretty much all natural, whole plant-based foods like fruits and vegetables, whole grains, legumes. Pretty much any plant-based food you can think of is a complex carbohydrate. That's why vegans eat such a high-carb diet. Let's talk a little bit more about the glycemic index. I know a lot of you are probably kind of confused about what this is and how it relates to gaining or losing weight. Well, we also need to understand that it is linked to insulin resistance. Now, what happens is that when you eat too many simple carbs and when your blood sugar rises, more insulin is released, and therefore your body's going to store glucose as fat rather than use it for energy. That's why you want to keep your blood glucose levels low, and that's why so many people are so against carbs right now, because mostly in America, we're eating so many simple carbs, these processed grains, refined everything. That is why carbs are so demonized right now, because we're not eating the right carbs. We need to be incorporating more of these whole plant-based foods into our diet if we want carbs to have a good name again. And if you want to repair your health and lose weight, which you can do, but you got to know what to eat, right? So what should you be eating? What complex carbs should you be eating? What are the most optimal? I suggest to you that you eat foods high in resistant starch, which is also a very important thing to understand with diet. So how does resistant starch work? It's actually a lot like fermentable fiber. So it goes through your digestive system undigested, and once it gets to your gut, it feeds the healthy bacteria in your gut, which is going to improve a whole bunch of different things. Your gut is linked to your brain, which is linked to like your serotonin levels as well, so it can actually improve your happiness just by eating resistant starches. But it's also super good for your digestive system and to increase your insulin resistance. And I'm very happy to tell you guys and show you guys that there's a bunch of studies linking the health benefits to resistant starches, and I will tell you guys all the foods you should be eating that are really high in resistant starches by the end of the video, so do not go anywhere. Resistant starches can actually reduce inflammation. There was a study where these participants wanted to see how it would affect cancer prevention and how it would affect colon cancer and their colon. They took 12 healthy volunteers and had them consume either a low resistant starch diet or a high resistant starch diet. Gonna keep this really simple, but what they found in the fecal matter for the high resistant starch people was a lot less stuff that leads to colon cancer. So it's actually linked to lower inflammation. But a lot of you right now might be like, you know what, that's not what I care about. I want to see that these resistant starches will allow me to lose weight through increasing my insulin sensitivity. And guess what, I gotta tell you right here, that proves that. So they wanted to see if insulin sensitivity would improve in individuals with metabolic syndrome. And they found that insulin sensitivity improved compared with the placebo group with the people who consumed resistant starch. And this next study is interesting because it's taking people after they've just consumed a lot of food and their blood glucose levels are kind of spiking, and they want to see how resistant starch affects that. Is it going to increase your blood glucose more, or is it going to help prevent those blood glucose levels from spiking? What do you guys think? Let's check out the study. So they made these participants eat muffins, and 120 minutes following the consumption of them, they had them either consume some resistant starch or no resistant starch, and they found that consuming this resistant starch daily for 6 weeks can improve glucose homeostasis and also lower your leptin concentrations. If you guys are longtime viewers of my channel, I've talked about leptin a couple times. It's what makes you want to eat more. It's the hunger hormone. So when you have lower concentrations of that, you're going to want to eat less. Therefore, it is going to allow you to put on less fat and lose more weight. So this study was done on infant pigs, so that may affect how it will react in humans, but they wanted to see the effect of resistant and digestible starch on absorption of calcium, iron, and zinc. And after feeding them the meals, the mineral apparent absorption was much higher in the group that was consuming resistant starches versus the digestible starches. Now the all-important question, what foods are high in resistant starches? Let's go over a few here. There are a ton, but I'm just gonna go over a few here, and all of them are whole plant-based foods. So some great sources of resistant starch include raw oats, garbanzo beans, sushi rice, that one's kind of surprising, sourdough bread, a bunch of different types of beans like cannelli beans or however the hell you pronounce that, lima beans, other legumes like red beans, kidney beans. Different types of potatoes are really high in resistant starch like yams or reheated white potatoes. Brown rice is a really good one. Corn or high maize flour or corn tortillas. Plantains, green bananas are actually super high in resistant starch as well. When they're green, you can still eat them and still get benefits. Banana peels, you don't want to do that. I've eaten a banana peel. It was not fun. Peas and a lot more. The resistant starches go on and on for a plant-based diet. If you enjoyed this video and you learned something from it, please leave a like for me. Thank you for sticking around to the end. I love you so much for sticking around to the end. You're amazing. And I will see you in the next video.